Okay, what's the matter with Rihanna and Chris Brown? They keep splitting up, getting together, beating each other up, all this madness. And a lot of you asked me to make an astrological overview so they can see which factors will contribute to violence and to such obsessive, obviously obsessive and strong sexual attraction towards each other. So you can maybe recognize the same factors in relationship you've had. So here is what I've done. I've overlaid some of Rihanna's planets on some of Chris Brown's planets on Rihanna's planets. His planets, the Chris Brown's planets, are in blue like a boy, and her planets are in pink like a girl, and they're on the inside of the circular chart. This is what a horoscope usually looks like. It's a circle. So her planets, when she was born, they were situated like that, and I've just put just a few planets there to demonstrate the compatibility between them. And the first thing that comes to mind, which is extremely binding and which like glues two people together like a super glue. Do you see where it says sun? And there is Ra. The sun is indicated with the letters SU, and that's the symbol of the sun. Rihanna's sun is exactly in the same position as Chris's Rahu. Rahu is the north node of the moon. I call it Rahu because this is how it is indicated in my birth chart calculator, and this is how it's called in ancient astrology, but it's actually the north node of the moon. And this is one of the most binding combinations. If you see that someone has their sun in a couple, with their own sun is in the same degrees or within 5-6 degrees of the north node or Rahu of the other person, it is like a magnet. Rahu is a very karmic planet, and it shows that you have to make karma in this life. So it draws the people magnetically to each other. It's like a hook. It acts, Chris Brown is like a hook for Rihanna. She is hooked on him. Her son, this is Rihanna, her son is affected by his Rahu. So Rahu is the planet also of drug addictions and any kind of addictions and obsessions. So he affects Rihanna like an addiction and like an obsession. And I've had the same relationship. My son was exactly exactly on the same degree as the north node of a man, and it was the most obsessive, the most intense drug-like relationship, and I kept going back for more and more. So I can totally identify with Rihanna, and I do not want to judge her because I know how powerful this can be, this connection. So if you've been in such relationships where your son is connected to the north node of another person, you'd know, and you'd understand why she's behaving a bit madly despite all of the difficulties that they have between, and all of the irresponsible behavior and downright violent behavior he's showing. So this is actually one of the this thing can be very good in some relationship. It does. When you're hooked on something, it can be something good. Say you can be hooked on working out. You can be hooked and in love with your husband that treats you great. So this in itself, in and out of itself, the sun and Rahu together in a horoscope is not something which ruins a relationship. Just the opposite. It guarantees that you'll be strongly magnetically pulled to each other, especially the person whose sun, who has their sun affected by the other person's Rahu, because Rahu acts like the addiction, acts like this obsessive influence, this hooking influence, and they do have this connection between them. But let's see whether he's good for her or no, whether they're good for each other or no, because as I said, you can have a good addiction or a bad addiction. And to see how they affect each other, we first, I've put a, can you take a look where it says Mars, the planet MA, which is in blue? This is the Mars position of Chris Brown. When he was born, Mars was situated there in the sky. And Mars and his Saturn, if you can see in the blue again, is in the opposite side, 180 degrees from Mars. So Saturn and Mars and Chris Brown are in blue. And Saturn and Mars are the most cruel planets in astrology. They're gentle planets like Venus and the Moon, and they're cruel planets like Saturn and Mars. And planets affect each other through aspects. For instance, through opposition, when planets are opposite each other, or when planets are 90 degrees from each other, or when planets are in the same degree as each other. This is the most powerful way a planet can affect another planet. So 90 degrees, 180 degrees, which is opposition or conjunction when they're together. And if you see Chris's Mars and Saturn, these difficult planets, these cruel planets, are exactly 90 degrees from her soft, gentle planets, which are Venus and Moon. You can see they're in pink, 90 degrees from his Mars and Saturn. So they make like a square. And this is one of the most difficult astrological combinations, which means that his difficult, his cruel, his nasty planets, which are Saturn and Mars, are really affecting and hurting her gentle planets, Venus and Moon, and the planets of love, of affection, of emotional attachment, you know, and he's really trampling on her. When you see Saturn affecting someone's Venus, or Mars affecting someone's, the cruel planets affecting, someone's cruel planets affecting someone's soft planets, it's like an elephant in a glass shop, like abusing that space and trudging on her most sacred and gentle, you know, parts. Well, you can take it figuratively or, you know, or literally. But you see, she's much more vulnerable than him because his difficult planets are affecting her gentle, soft planets. So she feels hurt. While his gentle planets, I haven't written them here, but they're in no way affected by her own cruel planets, you know. And as you can see, her own cruel planets are Saturn and Mars. Again, they're in pink, and they're exactly opposite his Mars and conjunct together with his Saturn. So we have her cruel planets with his cruel planets, again, affecting each other in the most difficult way. And whenever you see Mars-Saturn, once the Mars of one person with the Saturn of another person affecting each other, and in their case it's double. His Mars affects her Saturn, her Mars affects his Saturn, so both double whammy, as we call it in astrology. This is when you know physical violence will most usually be present, unless the two human beings are extremely evolved spiritually, extremely evolved in consciousness, with a lot of presence and ability to control their reactions, because Mars and Saturn are both cruel planets. And imagine, Mars is the planet of resentment, the planet of oppression and suppression and putting someone down, while Saturn is the planet of oppression, resentment, putting someone down, and Mars is the planet of aggression, of anger, of physical reaction. So imagine, one is attacking the other one physically, and the other one, instead of, you know, somehow softening the other, would react with more aggression, or would react with more resentment, trying to suppress the other. So they're both like really, whenever I've seen those combinations in most couples, there is almost always a case of physical violence. And in their case, it's double whammy. So unless they both become very spiritual, very aware, very, you know, in control of themselves, there is no chance that this will not repeat, you know, or even if the physical abuse doesn't repeat, the emotional abuse will repeat, and they'll keep antagonizing each other. He will, for instance, she's also not the softest person with him. When he attacks her, when he challenges her with his cruel planets, so say Mars, he tries to suppress her, or he mistreats her in some way, she would react violently. She would lash out at him with her Mars or with her Saturn, by trying to put him down, by calling him names, by being abusive, you know. So it goes both ways. It's not, but she's the one who is more hurt as well, because her gentle, soft planets are also the ones affected. While for him, it's only his cruel planets are affected, so he would react only cruelly and violently towards her with anger, while she would react much more. Sometimes she would react with violence and anger, but oftentimes she would be very much hurt because of this Venus, Moon that are being triggered by his difficult planets. So you see very quickly how astrology can show you so much about a person, you know, but also you can see that Neptune, his Neptune is in blue, is the planet of illusions, is the planet of glamorization, making something look rosy and wonderful. He's sending an aspect to her Venus and Moon. You know, the 90-degree aspect, they are 90 degrees away. It's a very powerful aspect in astrology. So her lovely planets, which are very romantic, the Moon and Venus. Venus is the planet of love. Moon is the planet of being affectionate and connected to someone emotionally, and are affected by his Neptune. So even though those difficult planets of his are also affecting her, so antagonizing her, abusing her, you know, hurting her in ways, he's also kind of almost wrapping her in a fog of glamour, this Neptune planet, being able to delude her. So she keeps going back for more. Doesn't matter or the pain that is hurting her, but Neptune, difficult aspect of one person with the gentle planets, the planets who fall in love. Venus and Moon are the planets that fall in love with another, and she falls in love with this false image he manages to put in front of her, and to this very romantic image that he can present as well. And there is another chart. Look at now at the other chart. Do you see how her moon, which is in pink, comes before his moon, which is in blue, which means that the energy in their relationship flows in the wrong way. Basically, the energy flows from the woman to the man, and it should be the opposite way for a relationship to be happier. It doesn't always ruin a relationship if the woman is very strong, independent, is okay, but every woman likes to feel pampered, and a bit of the woman. What it means is that she would always want more from him, and earlier than he is ready. Should be like 10 steps ahead in the relationship. So she would want more commitment before he's ready. She would want to move forward with the relationship before he's ready. She would give the ideas for the relationships. She would demand more from him before it comes to him, to his mind. So she'll be the initiator, and this can always really antagonize a man, because he starts feeling less of a man when the woman keeps telling him what to do, or keeps nagging him why he hasn't thought first of this, or keeps pushing him to do things when he's not ready for. And the man feels less of a man. He becomes less and less initiative, and the woman feels less appreciated. But if his moon was before hers, he would be the one who would think, oh, let me propose now, it's time, or I'm ready for further commitment. And that's usually when a woman feels really appreciated, when the man first makes those steps. So he's not always the one. So she's not always the one who initiates everything. Also there is another thing that it doesn't show here, but they have it in the astrological compatibility. It's their moons are in special constellations, and you only see that if you order my love relationship compatibility, which I'll put a link for below. But the constellations of the moon, there's 27 different constellations and 14 different animals, and the animal shows the sexual nature of two people, and they're both from 14 different animals. Possibly they both have the same animal. She is the female, he's the male animal. I think she's a female elephant and he's a male elephant, or the other way around. But this is the most compatible sexual combination. So in moments of very intense emotional situations like sex and orgasm, for instance, they would be able to connect on almost on a tantric level. They'll be extremely compatible sexually, and this is one of the other things that holds them extremely well, because they have a 10 out of 10 sex, these two people, because it's very rare for two people to be born with the same sexual animal. Sometimes they have animals which are compatible or friendly together, or even inimical, most people. So that's why it's very rare to find someone who you have the same sexual intensity with, and it can be someone that you find obnoxious and repulsive, but in sex you can be extremely like house on fire, as they say. And this is what Rihanna and Chris what's his name? Sorry, Chris Brown have. And also his constellation of Chris Brown has a symbol. Each constellation of the 27 constellations, romantic, astrologically, they're very important for relationships, has a different symbol. And Chris's birth constellations, out of 27 possible constellations, it has the shape of a vagina, of a female sex organ. Basically because this is the horniest of positions possibly for someone to be born with. They need sex so much. They need sexual partners. They need sexual stimulation. So it's so important for him. That's why often such people can be players. But if you want to find out what your moon constellation is, what your partner's moon constellation is, how well you combine together for a relationship, you can always order my relationship compatibility report and see this for yourself. Or otherwise follow my updates and subscribe for my video to learn astrology and to see how astrology works, and to check it maybe in your horoscope and those of loved ones. Thank you.